Our News on Terror segment tonight. While you and your family were watching fireworks yesterday, North Korea was setting off a different kind of rocket. According to U.S. intelligence, yesterday's test by North Korea was the first time they've successfully launched a missile that could reach the United States. So, is it time for us to take serious action against the North Korean regime? And if so, what does that look like? Watch.
Kim Jong-un calls it a gift package for the 4th of July. Pyongyang saying Wednesday its new intercontinental ballistic missile can carry a nuclear warhead. They claim the new long-range rocket can hit the U.S. state of Alaska and parts of the mainland. It's a major step forward in the North's weapons program, and it's setting off alarm bells in Washington, who answered with their own show of force along with the South. This joint missile exercise, now in its second day, meant as a warning across the border.
If North Korea ignores our military's warning and continues provocations, we warn the Kim Jong-un regime will face destruction.
Now Washington's calling for global action to hold the North accountable.
With me now, retired Navy commander and former Pentagon spokesperson, J.D. Gordon. J.D., good to see you.
Hey, Liz, great to be back. Nice to see you as well.
All right, J.D., this ballistic missile test, I mean, there have been conflicting reports on whether or not this was successful. As we know, Kim Jong-un always claims that his missile tests are successful. He always claims that they achieve what he wants them to achieve, even if that is not the case. So let me ask you, was this a successful test for him?
Hey, Liz, I think it was a successful test because every time North Korea launches a missile, they learn from their mistakes if it didn't go perfectly. So, yes, this was an ICBM test. This ICBM, if it was successful and launched in the right direction, could have hit the United States, specifically Alaska, possibly even Hawaii. So, yes, I do think it was a success.
All right, and I guess what does this mean then? Does that mean that it's time for some sort of military action against North Korea?
Well, I wouldn't say that quite yet. We still have a ways to go, I think, where we can try to pressure China and pressure other countries to not do business with North Korea at all. I mean, the regime has to feel a lot of pain before they stop what they're doing. I don't think we're going to get there, though, with just diplomacy. So at some point in time, we may have to take military action, but we have to realize that if it doesn't go well and we don't take Kim Jong-un and his top circle out right away, there could be millions of people that die in the Korean Peninsula, including tens of thousands of our own troops in Korea and also stationed in Japan.
Right, and that's, of course, the conventional warfare capacity that North Korea has that we actually don't talk about as much as we talk about their nuclear capacity, although it's arguably their conventional warfare capacity is just as deadly here. I do want to touch on one thing that you just said, though, and that is the role of sanctions or the role of trade with North Korea playing into whether or not they're going to continue their program. President Trump actually tweeted about this. I want to show that on the screen now. He said trade between China and North Korea grew 40% in the first quarter. I mean, JD, I don't see a realistic way to levy sanctions, economic sanctions, I should say, against North Korea successfully unless China gets on board, and it doesn't seem that they're going to.
China really has to get on board because most of the trade from North Korea is with China. So China could cut off their gas, for instance, and they wouldn't be driving cars around. Then, of course, they would try to import it from other places. The Russians and Singapore and Malaysia, they also do business with North Korea. So if China quits doing business with North Korea totally, other countries may step up in the vacuum. So that's why it's hard. But China has to do a lot more. But we don't have a lot of leverage over China either because we owe them over $1 trillion. And so we have so many problems, Liz. At some point, though, we may have to pull off the Band-Aid, and we may see military action. You know, since the 90s, we've been dealing with the Korean threat. They've been developing their program that President Clinton couldn't stop, President Bush couldn't stop, President Obama couldn't stop. So at some point, we may have to take bolder action.
Right, and if that were the case, I guess, paint me this picture, and I guess I fear, like a lot of Americans, what that would look like. I don't think any of us want a reprisal of the Korean War here, but if President Trump were to take military action against North Korea in order to stop them from launching a nuclear weapon towards us or towards South Korea, which is the only realistic goal that they have, testing ballistic missiles like this, what would that military action look like?
Well, they say that what keeps Kim Jong-un up at night is he's worried about a decapitating strike from Navy SEALs is what Kim Jong-un allegedly worries about, according to South Korean intelligence. Certainly, we wouldn't want to have any kind of conventional war because, you see, the North Koreans are not that far from Seoul. The DMZ is just over 30 miles, and they've got thousands and thousands of artillery tubes pointed right at Seoul with millions of people there. And so it would have to be a quick strike if that happened.
Right, and I, for one, like the idea of Kim Jong-un living in fear. I hope he continues to live in fear of our Navy SEALs. That's a healthy thing for a tyrant like Kim Jong-un. Last question, JD, and this is about the safety and security of the American people that are based right here in the continental United States. Do we, whether in California or in Alaska, do we have anti-ballistic missile technology or defense systems that would adequately stop a rocket launch like that?
Yes, we do. We have a missile defense system that's deployed to California, Vandenberg Air Base, and also Fort Greely, Alaska. So we do have a missile defense system that can shoot down a North Korean ICBM if it comes to that. But, you know, once they're shooting an ICBM, and if in case the missile doesn't work, we're in a lot of trouble. That's why we do have to invest in missile defense technology to make sure that we can shoot down any incoming from North Korea.
Right. It's also something I think Kim Jong-un should pay attention to, the fact that we could stop an attack that he launched against us. And if he did launch an attack, it would almost assuredly mean his death and the death of all of his cronies. JD, so good to have you back. Thanks for being on the show today. I appreciate it. All right, guys, we have to take a quick